Ryan Coogler really just is that director. You could not have picked a better person to helm this movie than that man right there. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the newest installment in the MCU, the sequel to the original Black Panther from 2018, and the final movie in the lineup of Marvel projects for Phase 4. The film follows all our original characters from that first film as they fight to protect their nation from intervening world powers in the wake of King T'Challa's death. The main world power intervening in this conflict is a new threat by the nation of Talokan under the leader and villain of Namor. And to be clear, I will not be giving any spoilers as I only just saw the film and I feel it's best to give people some time to see it. I will also, out of respect, not play any music in the background of this video as a way to really just let everybody hear what I have to say. There are moments in this movie where there is no music or anything being played that bring emotional moments, and so I want to do that here as well. So of course we know that this film was under very unfortunate and sad circumstances. With the recent passing of Chadwick Boseman, who donned the name of T'Challa and Black Panther, it put the filmmakers and this film's plot in a dire and pressuring situation. And with that, I'm happy to say that this film has met every expectation of mine and more. After a first watch, I have to say I very much enjoyed and liked this movie, and I'm teetering on loving it the more I think about it. This film really does have everything you want in a movie, regardless of if it's a part of the MCU or not. It's fun, exciting, funny when it needed to be, and of course very emotional considering the circumstances it was under. Every scene that they touch on with those emotional feelings was done very well and made you really feel as though this movie was more of a commemoration piece to the late Chadwick Boseman. The movie felt like everybody was giving it their all on and off screen. And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, I know Ryan Coogler wanted to give this movie his all just from the fact alone that he probably had more of a bigger connection with Chadwick than anyone, and so it would have been unnatural and unfortunate if he couldn't get this movie down well. And so with all that in mind, I do feel the story here did a great deal to give its viewers a good time while also mourning in the loss of not just a great actor and character, but also a great human being in Chadwick Boseman. So the story here is pretty simple. So basically, there are some events that are triggered around the nations of Wakanda and a new nation in Talokan that spark a heated affair between the two nations and even the CIA at one point, which ultimately leads to a higher conflict. When that conflict arises, the grand scale of everything is massive. The battle sequences and fights are very good for the most part to where, yes, it does feel like an all-out war at times. In a lot of these scenes, even when the action is not taking place, the visuals here are very stunning and maybe some of the best that Phase 4 has offered us. From their colors that illuminate the screen to some really good visual effects in scenes where you'd expect it to not look as great. To speak on the enemies of the film, in the main villain, who is newer to the MCU but also one of the older ones with the comics, in Namor, I had a blast with these characters. Just everything about the fact that it resembles Atlantis from the DC universe, but at the same time they took their own spin on it here with the MCU was very refreshing. A cool way to tie in the Mayan civilization and their upbringing with how it pans out to the story here in this film was very interesting. The way that they are all introduced was actually very horrifying at first, and menacing, and you really felt it. Our main villain, or anti-hero in this case, himself, Namor, also leaves a big mark on this movie with his presence, and the fact that even though he's new, I felt that not only was he played very well by the actor Tenoch Huerta, but he left himself to be maybe one of the more memorable MCU villains we've ever had. Over to the good guys now. I think everybody here brought it all, not just from the heart, but also from one of the better showings of an ensemble cast that the MCU has ever had. Starting with Angela Bassett, because I have a feeling she might get some of the best talk around this movie. She was damn good. I know that there is Oscar conversation around her performance, and I'll say it here, I do think that there is a chance she'll get that attention for it. Letitia Wright as Shuri is maybe the biggest presence of any character in the film, and the one who has it at the forefront the most. Of course, that all makes sense considering that she is T'Challa's sister. I thought she was great in the movie and felt every scene that she had, again, knowing her position. She is one of the better characters in the MCU, and I'm looking forward to seeing her do more in the future. One of our newer characters in Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, was good in the movie too. This is her first appearance of the character, and of course she is going to be getting her own show as well, so we will be sure to get more exploration of her character down the line. But for the most part, as this first time appearance, I do think that she brought a presence that maybe will leave for something great in the future when we do get her show and when we get to explore her character even more. Denai Guerrera and Winston Duke as Okoye and M'Baku were also very good in their own respective roles. I think each played a part in the movie in their own way with the telling of their own stories and who they are as people in the world of Wakanda that's without T'Challa. There were a lot of good scenes with them focusing on how it related to what is happening in the present as to how events were like in the past. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia was also, in all honesty for me, a presence of which I felt I needed more of in this movie. Not just because I love her as an actress, and she's one of the most beautiful women in all of the film industry, but her character is very vital to who T'Challa is, since they were in love together. Now, I will say there is something that happens at the end of the movie that is very vital to her character, and I love that they did that, but at the same time, I do wish they had given her more to do. I'm sure we'll definitely see her character again in the future, so I'm still happy. Now, for me personally, the final thing to talk about is the fact that this movie is not without its flaws. I mentioned the action earlier and that most of it was good, but there is a portion of it that I thought was very, very rough near the beginning of the movie with regards to some shaky cam action and scenes that took place in the darkly lit areas where I could barely tell what was going on. It was a major separation from the action I saw later in the movie to the point where I almost felt as though it was two different directors helming those scenes. Also, the lighting in general was very rough in scenes that take place in the dark or at night. When it took place in the ocean, it was understandable and fine there because, as we know, the ocean is very dark the deeper you go, but overall I was just not a fan of the general lighting in the film. The first act of the movie I would say overall was a bit rough in some spots, but it didn't hinder the movie enough to where I was let down going into the second and third act. And finally, I will also say that this is the second longest film in the MCU, and while I didn't feel the runtime, I do think that there are probably some scenes that could have been cut out, but that is just personally me. Those are my criticisms, and overall I had a great time, and if I had a chance to see it again for a second time, I would absolutely go. And of course, we wouldn't be talking about an MCU film if we didn't mention that post-credit scene, or in this case, the mid-credit scene. Of course, no spoilers here, but it was very emotional, and I think there are going to be a lot of people that are very happy about what they get from it. And overall, it does set up something for the future that I think is going to bring a lot of joy and happiness to a lot of the fans of the MCU and the whole world of Wakanda. But now with my analysis of this movie out of the way, it is time that we get to the point where I hear about everything you guys have to say. What are all your thoughts on the movie if you have seen it? Where does Phase 4 in general hold up for you, and are you excited for Phase 5 with what has been announced and shown? I miss Chadwick Boseman so much. He was a great actor and was just a great human being overall from everything I saw of him. I think he would have been very happy and proud of everything that was done around this movie. So again, down below, give me your thoughts, like the video if you want to see more, and subscribe to my channel if you are new. I hope everyone here has a great weekend, be safe, and I will see you in the next one.